This is Jamie Drummond, and I am joined once again by the one, the only, Ruud Maasdam, joining us all the way from down there in New Zealand. Now, Ruud and I, we've known each other for quite some time, and today we are going to be speaking about Sauvignon Blanc and the wines that Ruud makes at Staete, Landt, and particularly the three different styles of Sauvignon Blanc he produces down there. Is that not true, Ruud?
Yeah, that's true. I do some, the focus today is Sauvignon Blanc, but of course we do Pinot Noir as well, but that's a whole other story.
Okay, right. Now, so today we are actually going to be tasting, I'm going to be enjoying some of the 2022 Annabelle Sauvignon Blanc. So why don't we begin with that one?
Okay, let me get the glass.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I see you've hooked into the bottle quite a bit already.
No. It's, there we go. We're good.
Oh, okay. Right. Boom. Nothing like starting drinking at, 10 o'clock in the morning, right?
Well, you know, if it's done in a professional manner, it's fine.
No. Hey, my hand starts to shake at 8:30 right after the first coffee.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So this wine is available in our market right now. So tell us a little bit about this particular take on Sauvignon Blanc and why it's called Annabelle.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the three styles as I see it. So the world of Marlborough, Sauvignon Blanc, Concha, Ruud, and this fits. This is in the middle. This has been, if a winemaker puts his, this is the youngest daughter, his child on a label, is obviously a very important wine. There you go. This is what I would call, if you want to be simple about it, this is what I call the connoisseur, the total. This is probably we're doing this for 25 years. This is the benchmark wine of the company.
Right.
You know, you can hang your head on Pinot Noir, which, you know, people buy 1 out of 10 bottles of wine, they buy Pinot Noir. In Marlborough, if you want to be true to what we do here, this is the Staete Landt core wine. So we have, and the story is going to be, why is this in the middle? Because to the right, you have this extremely herbaceous stuff that we talk about in a second. And on the other side, all winemakers here are doing experimental stuff, which is niche, but it's very interesting. But so I stepped away from the, say, super grassy, super herbaceous, the sweaty socks, smelly armpits, and all these negative derogatory words we had for Sauvignon Blanc in the 80s, 90s. Yeah, by doing this on a very boutique level. We only make a couple of thousand cases of this, and this is, trust me, that is absolutely nothing in the sea of wine coming from Marlborough. And we do this by picking the best sub-blocks of larger blocks, and also by picking a part of this by hand. That's a small part. It's around 10%. That hand-picked proportion goes into very old oak. Because I'm saying very old oak, because with old oak you do not get the oak flavors, but you get a different style of fermentation. There is more lees, there is more fleshiness, but without all the grassy herbaceousness. Because if you pick a bunch of grapes by hand and you crush it, there is very little time that the juice actually gets into contact with the skins where most of the grassiness comes from. So the juice is the very, very, very pure best juice that gets immediately drained and protected and put into barrels.
I see.
So 10% of the Annabelle, I'll just keep rattling on until you interrupt me.
No, I'm enjoying it.
Some 10% of the Annabelle is hand-picked and barrel fermented in big, again to reduce oak contact, in big demi-muid, they say in French, puncheons in English, 500-liter double-sized barrels. And that mostly we let it go in a wild fermentation. Now, why? Why would you make your life so complicated? Well, it gives a wine that is still archetypal on the nose. As I've just opened this, and it truly is my first glass this today. I still get the very recognizable Marlborough grassy herbaceousness and this mixture of gooseberry and some passion fruit, etc. But on the palate, and I know this, so I better drink, otherwise people won't believe me. On the palate, you have this, not this spiky herbaceousness that you get in the classic style Sauvignon Blanc, but you have a very nice layer of creamy texture, a sort of togetherness, and my job is to make that ball of fruit go from from the teeth all the way back. There's a lot of Sauvignon Blanc around, and we won't mention names, but there are high commercial brands that have quite a residual sugar, because us humans have a sensor at the tip of a tongue that's pleasure, sugar, that the brain tells pleasure, but then nothing happens in the back. And the game in the back of the palate is more complicated because it's mostly done by acid. And of course, we don't want our wines to sound acidic, but acid plays a crucial role in Sauvignon Blanc by definition, but also in creating length on the palate. I reckon that we have, with this wine, we have since 3-4 years, we've changed to a more plural vineyard approach. So in the time that you tasted the wine that and it was also the Annabelle, etc., it was one place, one vineyard. I have the luxury now that the company has 4 locations in Marlborough.
I see.
And I can pick the different flavor profiles from different geographical sub-appellations. Mm-hmm. That immediately already broadens the scope of fruit. And I think also I've reduced the percentage of handpick and barrel fermentation. There's always, I say there's this high plateau of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, the super high quality level. This is a little bit nasty what I'm going to say, but if you take too much of the traditional flavor pattern away from that wine, you'll fall in the ravine of common Sauvignon Blancs from the rest of the world.
I see.
But there is a reason why Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc is on an elevated quality level in perception and masters of wine, sommeliers, and the consumers, obviously. But if you take too much of the tropicalness of the grasses or fill in whatever word away, it becomes like. So I might have been guilty in the old days to experiment. How far could I take the barrel portion? How far could I take the handpick level? And yeah, I might have sometimes. So we have the more appellations that I can pick from, and I have probably, after 25 years, finally found the level of the good level of barrel fermentation we can add to still keep that character there.
It still has the kind of benchmark points of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc without going, as you said, too far over the edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then maybe maybe the edge is a slope.
Yeah.
And maybe I have been with the Annabelle a little bit on that slope, and I've worked my way back over time to. It has to be traditional Sauvignon Blanc, but it has to be with luxury and a connoisseur level. It has to be. This is not just a lunch quaffer that some. This is a dinner. This is classy wine. People might know that the name or not. This is the old name of New Zealand. This is the first map that is in existence of New Zealand, made by a crazy Dutch discoverer in 1640. He called the country, he claimed the country in honor of the United States of the Netherlands. Staete Landt. And this is his handwriting. It wasn't trademarked, so this is the original 1642 name of New Zealand.
Going back to my tasting notes from 15 years ago, they are quite different, because I find there's a little bit more on the mid palate on this than perhaps there was in the past. Again, that could be my palate changing over time, but it's funny to go back and read my scrawled notes from tasting with you years and years ago. And in tasting this today, I'm impressed at the texture on it. I understand what you're saying about having it's unmistakably Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, but it has a certain complexity to it that you don't find in most of the more commercial brands, shall we say.
First of all, I'd say thank you, Jamie. Those are fantastic words, but there's no but. It takes time. I mean, I'm grey. I unfortunately, I see that you got all of your hair color still. How much did that cost? But but this is not the beauty of the wine industry. Is that if there's a winemaker that says, I know what I'm doing, I'll just throw a bit of this and throw a bit of that, he's a liar. He's just become lazy. There is this every year. Again, I'm really looking forward to the tasting later today. Of every year, I'm learning new stuff.
Yes.
Every year we clean the wines up a little bit. Every year, new green biologique products come out to fine the wine, to tune it a little bit, to get residue out, etc. It is a constantly moving circus. So I'm not surprised that the wine tastes differently. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm happy to hear that.
Now, when it comes to those wines that are more aromatic, that are more grassy, there is still a market for those wines, right?
There's a huge market. You see two banners behind me. The company has two brands, the Staete brand and the Mapmaker brand. This is the Mapmaker bottle.
Yep.
This is sold in Ontario to the private clients and to the restaurants.
Yes. Yeah.
This is this slightly more wumpy style that I was talking about. This is the boutique interpretation. This is my interpretation of that style. So it's still, removed from the hyper grassy. I mean, the grassier the wine is, probably the less work a winemaker has done to the wine.
I understand. Yeah,
and also probably the grape grower has done less wine work to the wine because it's probably picked less ripe. So to some people, we have the whole positive advent to a degree of the natural wine movement. To some people that might appeal, but I would say that if the grape grower hangs it out a bit longer and the winemaker is a little bit smoother in removing wine from lees, etc., you can be as natural as they come, but just a bit more on a boutique level.
I understand. So,
yeah.
Is that new packaging for the Mapmaker?
New since 2019, indeed, but we haven't spoken in a long time. We've had this awful COVID time, etc.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But in 2000, you're right. In 2019, we decided that the Mapmaker needed to explain better what it was.
Yeah.
It's become more about adventure and travel and discovery. And so there is an airship on there. The back label now talks about Abel Tasman on a ship and Ruud Maasdam following him in an airship and mapping out the soils of Marlborough and mapping to find. I'm crazy about maps, but that's a whole different story.
I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So the packaging has changed, Jamie, and we think this is slightly more poppy. It's a bit more poppy in the sense it pops a bit more than the Staete label. Yeah. So this is, if you want to say, this is the more herbaceous, more traditional version of Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, which is still made on a boutique level, and by the same winemaker that thinks you shouldn't be overly grassy. But it's made in inox, in stainless steel, yep. In small stainless steel tanks with different yeasts, different fermentations at different temperatures.
I was going to ask you, are there very specific yeasts you use to accentuate those herbaceous aromatics?
Yeah, there are absolute. There are. If you taste in the vineyard and you don't want any manipulations, there are just neutral yeasts. But you can also do with some yeast, you can steer it in that direction or that direction. Yes, so that's on a small level, 2,000 to 5,000 liter tanks. I know that sounds a lot, but again, in my industry, that is nothing. We would ferment these tanks with different yeasts to hit different pleasure points in the palate.
I understand. Now, what size of production is the Maasdam Sauvignon Blanc?
That is around, 120,000 bottles, roughly.
Yeah.
This is very successful in Ontario.
Yes,
predominantly in Ontario and in Alberta, if you talk Canadian-wise. But then south of the border, this is also becoming understood as a boutique interpretation of the grassy style. So in the Americas, this is an extremely popular wine, luckily for me.
Now, going to the other end of the spectrum, what has Staete been doing on the experimental side of things?